Rings are one of my favorite pieces of equipment for a serious workout using compound exercises, for stretching and mobilizing the body, or just for playing or hanging around. In this video, I'll discuss some of the things I had to take into consideration in order to not only stay interested in the rings, but to make progress with various exercises. Personally, I've only used the wooden rings, and I don't imagine I'll ever switch to the plastic alternative. Not only do I really enjoy the feeling of the wooden rings, but I've heard that the plastic ones can be slightly slippery, and I've never had that problem with mine before. I've never used chalk and don't plan to unless I have issues with slipping or with my grip. I've used both the thinner and thicker varieties of rings, and although I slightly prefer the thicker ones because my hands are bigger, the thinner ones were just fine and not much different. Although hanging the rings seems very straightforward, it isn't always easy to find a good spot for them. If you hang them outdoors, you need to have good weather and something solid that will not only hold the weight, but also not tear the straps. You also shouldn't leave the rings hanging outdoors and exposed to the elements. It's very important to note that no matter where I hang the rings, I always ensure not only the integrity of the straps and rings, but of the bar, wood, branch, etc. that I'm hanging them on. Doing inversions and advanced exercises with the rings is already dangerous enough when it comes to possible injuries, so adding more risks by hanging the rings in an unsafe spot is a bad idea. Even hanging them from something like a soccer net seems fine, until you perform an exercise where your body weight shifts forward and the entire net can crash forward with you along for the ride. Don't just consider the hanging weight, but also the directional forces you will apply. Understandably, many people try out the rings and immediately determine it's too difficult for them to even hold themselves up for a few seconds, and then decide it's not for them. Getting past this illusion that the rings are too difficult has been well worth it for my training. The best part about the rings is that they're easily adjustable, and an exercise can be quickly modified to be easier or harder. Having rings with numbers on them makes this much easier, and logging the number you use for specific exercises makes it easier to set up the rings the next time around. If I won't be hanging the rings consistently in one spot, I'll instead log the height on my body that they should be. For example, the belly button or knee height. Resistance bands are another way to make the rings more accessible. Combining ring height adjustments, using various bands, and even using props like a bench or chair can give one exercise dozens of variations from beginner to advanced. I tend to adapt exercise programs that call for a straight bar and instead use my rings. I'll also add the rings into stretching routines or exercises that might call for TRX straps. If I weren't at the point of creating my own exercise programs, I'd be trying out existing programs such as Cali Moves calisthenics programs or Body by Rings from Fitness FAQs. These are just two of many programs out there which include rings, and of course there are many free YouTube tutorials as well. But if you're like me, you might sometimes need to spend the money to find motivation and complete a program. Since when I purchase a program, I know this means I will fully commit to it right until the end. For the most part, I live out of a small backpack worth of belongings, but the rings are so valuable to me that I bring them as carry-on luggage wherever I go. Even at that, there are situations where I just can't find a great place to hang them. Many times there will be a bar available, but it will be too low to the ground, or bars will be too high or rusty and can ruin the straps. In these situations, I'll use fixed bars wherever I can find them. Some countries are better than others for this. Some cultures use outdoor parks for aesthetics, and others as functional outdoor gyms. Some places will have unused, rusty old outdoor equipment, and some places will have equipment where people have to take turns. But being outdoors is a great addition to the experience, and being creative in finding bars or branches can be fun.